There is a specific type of fear that only exists in broad daylight, not in a dark room, not in the woods at midnight, in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, on a bright, open field, where there is nowhere to hide and nothing to blame. On May 7th, 1973, two children walked into a marshy stretch of meadow on the Isle of Wight, off the southern coast of England. Their names were Neil and a girl whose name was never publicly released. They were approximately 7 years old. They were not investigating anything. They were not looking for adventure. They just wanted to cross a footbridge over a drainage ditch. They never made it across. The Isle of Wight is a small island, 23 miles wide, roughly oval-shaped, separated from the English mainland by a narrow strip of water called the Solent. It is not a remote wilderness. It has hotels, golf courses, a commercial airport, and a population of roughly 100,000 people. Sandown Common is a flat, wet stretch of meadow and marsh on the island's eastern edge, running alongside the airport. It is completely unremarkable, open, exposed, visible from the road. It was there, in a place with no drama, and no mythology attached to it, that the encounter happened. The children heard it before they saw anything. A sound, not a recognizable animal sound, not machinery. Something rhythmic and artificial and wrong, like an air raid siren that had been compressed to a third of its normal size and damaged in some way that made it pulse and shriek in short, sharp bursts. They ran, instinct. They sprinted toward the nearest visible landmark, a golf course at the edge of the common, looking for other people. And then the sound stopped, and something stepped out of the hedge. It was approximately 7 feet tall. That was the first thing, the height. But it was not the most disturbing detail, not by a significant margin. It was wearing what appeared to be a bright yellow jumpsuit, but the texture of the material was not cloth. It did not move like fabric. It did not catch the light the way synthetic material does. It looked like wood grain, like the surface of an old carved puppet, like something that had started as a tree and been slowly shaped into an approximation of clothing. On its head sat a pointed yellow hat, seemingly continuous with its scalp, blending into its skin without a visible seam. At the very top of the hat was a small white sphere, perfectly round. Its face was pale, deeply wrinkled, completely still. It looked like a mask, but there was no edge where a mask would have ended. The children searched for it and could not find it. It had no eyebrows, no hair, no ears they could identify. Two perfectly circular holes for eyes, black and absolutely unblinking. A nose that did not protrude the way a nose should. It appeared instead as a flat, rectangular block, and just above it a patch of dark, bruised-looking discoloration that did not correspond to any recognizable feature of any face they had ever seen. Its hands were covered in heavy green gloves. The children counted the fingers. 3. But here's the detail that researchers keep returning to decades later when they try to make sense of what the children described. It did not walk. It hopped. A mechanical, malfunctioning hop, raising each knee dramatically high, both legs operating in the rhythm that had no connection to normal human movement, as if whatever was operating the body had studied how humans walk, but had gotten the dynamics fundamentally wrong. The entity moved toward a shallow ditch filled with muddy water, the kind of ditch a person would step around or over. Instead, it was on one side, and then it was on the other. Not a jump, not a step, a discontinuity. And beside the ditch, in the middle of a waterlogged marsh that had no road access and no logical reason for its presence, was a small metallic hut, rectangular, windowless, approximately the size of a garden shed. It had not been there before. There was no sign it had been dragged, carried, or built. It simply was there. The entity entered the hut. It came back out, and then it spoke. Its mouth did not open. The sound emerged from a thin pipe or tube attached near the collar of its suit. A thin, mechanical voice. Not like a recording, but like a voice that had been constructed from components, assembled into something that approximated speech. It said 6 words. "Are you skin?" The children did not answer. The entity then appeared to demonstrate something. The texture of its face and suit began to change. Not quickly, slowly. The deep wooden grain smoothed itself out. The color shifted from the pale, wrinkled yellow wood tone into something cooler, a faint, luminescent blue. Still nothing like human skin, but moving further from wood and towards something organic. It told them it was the only one of its kind. It said it had arrived there accidentally. It mentioned a berry, held up one in its 3-fingered gloved hand, said something about having eaten one, as if this explained something. Then, while the children watched, the berry ceased to exist. No drop, no visible dissolve, present and then not. The children ran. When adults returned to Sandown Common later that day, the ground was as it should have been, soft, wet, the kind of earth that holds footprints easily. There were none. No hut, no entity, no trace that anything had ever been there. Now, here's where this case moves from strange anecdote into something considerably more uncomfortable. The Sandown entity was not a one-off. In 1954, near the village of Antagnac in southwest France, a man named Jean Narcy encountered an entity near a glowing object in a field. It wore a gray suit with no visible seams. Its face appeared artificial, like a mask, but not in the way a prosthetic is wrong when the materials don't quite behave like flesh. When it walked, it moved in segments, a series of disconnected motions, like a stop-motion figure given too few frames. In the late 1960s and through the 1970s, a cluster of sightings across the American Northeast produced what became known as the Grinning Man encounters. Tall, pale, stiff-limbed figures that appeared on roadsides and near houses. They were smiling, not at anything, not for any visible reason, smiling in the way a face smiles when the thing controlling the face does not understand what smiling is for. In 1964, in the mountains near Cisco Grove, California, a hunter named Donald Shrum spent the night in a tree surrounded by figures in seamless white suits. Their mouth movements were completely disconnected from the sounds they were making. The pattern, once you have seen it, does not go away. These things look like someone tried to build a human being from a written description, not from observation, from a list of features: 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a suit, hands, legs that move alternately. They have all the components. The proportions are approximately correct, and everything else is wrong, in a way that is precise and consistent across encounters separated by decades and thousands of miles. Researchers have developed a working framework called the skin suit hypothesis. The name is descriptive. Whatever these things are, they appear to be operating inside constructed approximations of physical human form. Shells built to interface with an environment they are not native to. And the craftsmanship is poor, the fingers are wrong, the locomotion is wrong. The mouth does not connect to the voice. The eyes do not blink. They are not quite right, which may be why the Sandown entity asked the question it asked. Are you skin? This is not a greeting. It is a classification question. It is asking whether you are the kind of thing that lives inside a biological body. It is asking because the distinction matters to whatever is asking. It wanted to know if you were one of those, the things made of skin, the things it was currently impersonating. Two children stood in a wet field in 1973 and were asked to confirm that they were, in fact, human. And whatever was asking them, 7 feet tall, 3 fingers, unable to walk correctly, and living inside a wooden suit it apparently wore by necessity, was genuinely curious about the answer. Researchers have spent 50 years unable to explain what the children saw. The more unsettling question is the one the entity left behind. What was it made of?